Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown. I'm your host, Matthew Peterson, and before we dive in today's show, I want to remind you guys about our awesome friends over at BetUS who have a great deal set up for you. All you got to do is use the link right below, chatsports.com. You use the promo code Broncos125, and what they're going to do for you is they're going to tack on an additional 125% deposit bonus for you. So make sure to check out the link, chatsports.com/bet. Use the promo code Broncos125. Week 3 of the preseason is upon us here. The Broncos will play host to the LA Rams in the third and final preseason game. You've heard me say it before, just 3 weeks of preseason. That's this Saturday, the 28th, a late kickoff over in Denver. Broncos 9-point favorites over the Rams, probably a lot due to the fact that they've got two starting quarterbacks compared to the Rams, who really just going to have Stafford, and I doubt Matthew Stafford will play at all. Over-under pretty low, but the unders have been hitting at a pretty high rate throughout the preseason. Now, before we really get into today's show, hop down in the comments. Predict the score for me. If you're a Rams fan, you think they're going to win or whatever, beat it and go back to your crowded city. For the Broncos fan base out there, I want you guys to give me a big predict the score, how much you think the Denver Broncos are going to win this one by, and start the preseason off 3-0 and end the preseason 3-0 because it'll be over just like that. And this has been a really fun preseason here. A lot of notable things going on, especially at that quarterback position. Okay, this is what the big storyline has been all about as we've watched throughout the entire training camp and into the preseason, because you got Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater here. These two preseason numbers, not a ton, and that's partially because it's preseason. Each guy's probably played about 40 snaps. That's about all together, not even a full game. We're looking at 3 quarters-ish, maybe even. But Drew Lock lost the quarterback battle to Teddy Bridgewater. I think it's a bit surprising, only because I thought Lock with that second-round pick would carry him over. But props to Bridgewater, who has who's been the better quarterback so far in the eyes of head coach Vic Fangio. But believe me, Drew Lock, he's got something to prove here. And what do I mean by that? He's still competing for a spot for playing time for the Broncos this season, because I don't think this quarterback battle is done for sure. So let me know, do you think that the Broncos will bench Teddy Bridgewater for Drew Lock at some point this season? Type Y for yes, type N for no. If Teddy Bridgewater plays at all like he did last year for the Carolina Panthers, absolutely. They're not going to, head coach Vic Fangio is not going to put up 3 losing seasons in Denver before getting fired. He's going to be quick to make a change if something isn't working right. So I definitely think yes, unless we see the Teddy Bridgewater of the New Orleans Saints from 2 seasons ago. That's a different story. That's a great Teddy Gloves. But the Broncos this preseason have been magnificent. I mean, started off with a trip to Minnesota, demolished the Vikings, didn't think it could get much better. They, in fact, did get better against the Seahawks 30-3. Now, I know this is a lot of smoke for 2 games against a ton of backups and players who most likely won't make the 53-man roster. But it's still exciting, because when you win in the preseason, you count as like half a regular season win. So they've won 1 regular season game by this logic. But it isn't really logic. But it's going to be an exciting preseason matchup and finale for the Denver Broncos now that a lot more is clear. But most importantly, there is a lot of position battles coming up at you guys and a ton to keep an eye on as roster bubbles come about. But like I mentioned earlier, BetUS, we've got your game. It's a great deal. All you got to do, use the link down below. You use the promo code Broncos125. Just those 2 steps, and they're going to tack on an additional 125% deposit bonus. What does that mean in English? You put $100 in, they're going to put an additional 125% out. So you're walking out the door with $225 to spend on the Broncos preseason, regular season, whatever you want to do. You want to play it on the week 3 game against the Rams? I like that 9. I know it's a big number, but look at the 2 final scores from the first 2 weeks of the preseason. The Broncos are blowing people out, partially because they're playing Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock into the third quarter. Most other teams aren't even playing their starting quarterback, let alone a backup who is also a former starting quarterback. So maybe hammer that -9 while you're at it. A lot to keep an eye on, though, through the preseason. I got 3 positions to watch for against the LA Rams. A lot of position battles still for grabs, roster spots, everything going into that final cut, which is next Tuesday, August 31st. And keeping an eye out on the Rams matchup for the Broncos. First thing I'm looking at is the running back group, okay? This is a loaded running back room between Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, but the list kind of stops there. So RB3 is very much up in the air. And what about the incumbent, Royce Freeman, okay? You look at the depth chart right here. Broncos picked up Boone from Minnesota. He's been out with an injury for the last couple of weeks. They added Stevie Scott. You see him below. He's the rookie out of Indiana. Crockett has been in training camp competing all preseason long. Injuries have kind of plagued this running back room. That's why I really want to keep an eye on. But also Javonte Williams has been just awesome to watch. I mean, frankly put, have not seen Melvin Gordon yet, but Williams has been the highlight of that offense so far for the Denver Broncos at the running back position. But like I talked about, Royce Freeman here. He's been with the Broncos for the last couple seasons, kind of sitting behind Phillip Lindsay, who's out the door now. But Freeman hasn't really emerged as much as Denver would have liked, so you go for a change of pace potentially. So you tell me, what do you guys do if you're the Broncos front office with Royce Freeman? Type T for trade, K for keep, or C for cut. I'll tell you what, if anyone calls George Paton's office for T for trade, I'm opening up John Elway's moving company and helping Royce Freeman get out the door. If anyone wants to offer up a draft pick for the guy, K for keep, maybe, because the rest of the running back room has been pretty banged up. C for cut is definitely on the table, but let me know what you think down in the comments. Next position group I'm keeping an eye on is the corners. Why? Because they're freaking awesome. That's why. PS2, Patrick Surtain, pick 6 in his preseason debut. Haven't seen much of the other starters yet. Maybe this will be more of a dress rehearsal for them. Looking at you, Kyle Fuller, Darby, Callahan. Maybe, maybe not. But regardless of that, this is a cornerback depth chart that is probably, if not the best in the NFL. I mean it. Number 1, there are a couple other cornerbacks that maybe are rooms across the NFL that give them a run for their money, but Denver's absolutely top 3. And how about the 9th overall pick from this past NFL draft, Patrick Surtain II, week 1, 2 pass breakups, an interception, a touchdown. He was lights out in week 2 for however long he did play against the Seattle Seahawks. So this is a cornerback room that's just wetting your whistle for the regular season, because they enter a tough AFC West with a lot of good quarterbacks who have difficulty passing against this mile-high secondary. And the final position group to watch for, it's not over, okay, the quarterback room. I know that we have a starter named, but that's just the battle. The war's still going on, okay? Finally, some clarity comes in with Teddy Bridgewater, QB1, and Drew Lock at QB2. But believe me, this is still an ongoing battle. So if Teddy Bridgewater begins to, revert back to some of his poor play like he had last year in Carolina, and Drew Lock looks more like the 2019 version of himself, that can flip easily. And that's why I think Drew Lock is still someone to watch for this Week 3 preseason game, because I don't think that was an easy decision for the front office and head coach Vic Fangio to name Teddy Bridgewater 1 and Lock 2. Definitely came down to the wire. So Lock is out there trying to prove his coaching staff wrong, who don't have room to mess around and not want to be proven wrong. And so what do I mean by that? If Lock's better, they'll own up to it and send him out there. And that's why I'm going to keep a close eye on him in Week 3 against the Rams.